Week 1 of the Prismatic Draft League, Season 8. I am back in my commentary chair, which is the same chair I use for everything else, so really just my chair. And I am ready to watch some replays. Of course, my own set was already covered in the first PDL video of this week. You can go check that one out. It went up on Monday. But this is the second video of the week where I see what happened in the rest of the league. First, we have to do this weekly standings update, twice weekly. It's the same in both videos each week. These are the standings going into week 1. Everything is neck and neck. Anyone could win this championship. Next, there are a couple of trades that happened. Even though it's week 1, there still were a couple of trades before the week even started. And the very first trade of the season was made by the Ontario Minccinos, who dropped male Meowstic and picked up Gothorita. So they've swapped out one support psychic type for another. Gothorita, of course, able to be bulkier with an Eviolite. At least I assume it's bulkier. I don't think Meowstic is very bulky. It can be a Trick Room setter. It doesn't have Prankster, so it doesn't get the kind of Prankster weather control or manual psychic drain or certain other things that Meowstic can do. It does get fake out, so they haven't lost a fake out user here. But I think Gothorita brings two main things to the table. It's probably a somewhat more reliable Trick Room setter. They do have Mimikyu already, but this gives them another one that Pokemon like Clawitzer and Trapinch even will really appreciate. But also, of course, the other thing that Gothorita brings to the table is Shadow Tag, and they do have a Perish Trap option with that Politoed, so we might be seeing that. They already had a Trapper in Trapinch, but that traps fewer things than Gothorita does, and it's not as bulky. I would not be surprised to see some Perish Trap this season. Second trade was already in the previous video because it was relevant to my specific matchup, but just for the sake of completeness here, the Iridescent Terapagos did drop Dracloak and pick up Red Oricorio, and we saw some of what that could do in Monday's video, but once again, I think this is largely here to be an answer to grass types because, well, it completes their Fire, Water, Grass core. Otherwise, they don't have a fire type at all, but also a lot of their Pokemon are water or electric type, and so they have stabs that potentially give them trouble with grass types. And of course, this trade went through just before we played in week 1, and I have 3 grass types on my team. And if you want to know how Oricorio did, well, you should know already because you should have watched that video, but definitely go check it out if you haven't yet. Now is the part where I cut to the replays for the week, and if you're new, here's how it works. I'm going to go through all 7 of the other sets that happened, excluding my own. I'll be watching them chronologically in the order in which they were played, and I have not watched any of the replays before. I will be watching them for the first time. That said, I do usually know the outcome of each set already, and I might know some details of what happened because I just don't force myself not to read the Discord for this. But the exact how we got from point A to point B, exactly what happened in the set, usually what Pokemon were brought and how they performed, those things I don't know yet. So while I have seen this image that someone sent to the Discord the other day, I don't know how this poor Mightyena got into this situation. I don't know the context around it. We're going to find out together. But no Mightyena just yet, as we are starting with the big mode Bellibolt taking on, I was going to say the Marvelous Bridge Malamars, that's not the right name for this season, the Southern-style Grovyles. Early season is always a little bit tricky for me because it can take me a moment to come up with some of the names, although I think I feel okay. I feel like I have them down more or less this time, but also I haven't really committed to memory yet all of the Pokemon that every coach has on their roster, and I don't know what they typically do with those Pokemon, so there's not much that I can analyze in the early weeks except what's in front of me. I don't know whether there's some alternative Pokemon that I'm surprised they didn't bring or anything like that. That stuff will be smoothed out as the season goes on, but I'm about to watch 14 different teams play their draft games, and it's just too much information to have all down all right away. That said, like I said, we got the Bellibolt versus the Grovyles here. I see that Calyrex on the Grovyles side. I'm definitely hoping to see it put in some work. If not this week, then at some point this season. And it is here with the Indeedee, so they can do the Psy Spam stuff if they want. They also have a plausible Sun mode, Jump Bluff able to set the Sunny Day, and set Tailwind for its teammates. Charmeleon is a lot less strong than Charizard, but it does have that solar power and fire typing. And Sawsbuck Sawsbuck could be running Chlorophyll, although the Grovyles coach did remind me in the comments that Sawsbuck also gets Serene Grace and Headbutt, so it can kind of be a discount Jirachi for a format like this. So it's not guaranteed to have Chlorophyll here. Then there's the Brionne. The Brionne is the Pokemon that I'm least certain about because it looks like they have a Psy Spam mode and a Sun mode. I mean, we'll find out beyond those basic bare bones thing as we get into it, but yeah, I'm not clear on how Brionne potentially complements some of that stuff. They did bring 2 of their starters, so they can set up the Rainbow Pledge combo if they want, which actually could stack. Does it stack? I looked this up once. I made a video about the Rainbow Pledge. I think it stacks with Serene Grace except for flinches. We're going to check that after the set. So I don't know that it can complement Serene Grace Sawsbuck, but they couldn't be cooking something with it, or the Brionne could be here for something else. On the Bellibolt side, we have that duo of Bellibolt and Oranguru that I know has a lot of people worried this season. And then just a strong mix of Pokemon that it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Okay, the Houndoom makes a lot of sense in this matchup because it's potentially strong into both of the obvious modes on the other side, being immune to Psychic type attacks, so it's good into the Psy Spam, and also potentially running Flash Fire, so it doesn't have to worry about Charmeleon, potentially being able to check the Jumpluff and Sawsbuck offensively. I mean, I'd be surprised if it couldn't. Houndoom is stronger to pretty much everything here except Brionne. Maybe the Brionne is a matchup piece, but I definitely think we'll see the Houndoom come out early in this set. Granbull also could be helpful into the Psy Spam stuff with Snarl. Actually, that could weaken a lot of these Pokemon. It can intimidate the Sawsbuck. And then, yeah, Bellibolt Oranguru is scary. I don't know what Cramorant does here, but it's a funny guy, and I hope to see it do something interesting. And then Ditto is actually a really interesting bring against this team as well, because the Grovyles have those 2 super strong modes, but there is a chance that the Bellibolt can turn it around on them if they get Ditto positioned just right and transform it into Calyrex or Charmeleon or Sawsbuck. But let's see what happens in game 1 here. We got Granbull and Houndoom, of course, leading against Sawsbuck and Charmeleon, so could be a Sun mode coming out. We'll see, but again, we'll have to see as well what answer the Grovyles have to the Houndoom. I think Sawsbuck gets some coverage for it. Like, Sawsbuck definitely gets fighting and ground coverage, right? So, but this could be good scouting then still for the Bellibolt as they find out what the answer is early, potentially. We see Terra Normal Sawsbuck, and it's actually beat up Houndoom into Granbull. I didn't even notice that there wasn't an Intimidate, but Granbull, I also honestly don't think I remembered that it gets rattled, but they are giving Granbull those speed boosts with the beat up. Rattled boosts the Pokemon speed whenever it's hit by a bug, ghost, or dark type attack. So it'll get to +4 speed here as we fill the screen up with text. Ice Punch does about half to the Sawsbuck with a life orb, so if the Sawsbuck hadn't terrestrialized, of course it would have taken... I guess it would have been knocked out, right? Probably, that's how damage works. Granbull doesn't quite get the KO instead, takes a lot back from a Flamethrower, and Sawsbuck Terra Normal Headbutt does not KO the Houndoom, so the Houndoom is still sitting here, able to join its buddy in knocking out the Charmeleon, and the Houndoom goes for Beat Up into Charmeleon. I mean, it could just be like physical Houndoom, it has all its teammates, Beat Up is actually pretty strong, or it could be running a Scarf. It could be running a Scarf to guaranteed outspeed the Sawsbuck, at least outside of Sun. But it'll drop to a Headbutt here. Takes the Charmeleon with it. We get Cramorant and Calyrex on the board, okay. Ice Punch into Calyrex does a lot, but the Granbull, I mean, it's not doing bad damage with the Life Orb, but yeah, the thing about boosting its speed is it doesn't get any power boost from that as well. Cramorant just goes straight for a Brave Bird, knocks out Sawsbuck, takes that Expanding Force pretty well. And now we get Indeedee in, so... but Ditto comes in and turns into Calyrex, so they both have the boosted Expanding Force available now if they want to use it. I mean, maybe the Ditto doesn't with 2 Psychic types on the other side. We see that it's a Terra Steel Ditto, which is an interesting bring into this matchup, right? But I guess if you clear the Sun pieces out of the way, you do have that resistance available into Psy Spam. But if you're bringing it just for that, then you'd probably want Dark, right? So it might be for something else, and maybe even to resist normal attacks coming from the Sawsbuck. You just have to remove the Charmeleon first. But again, I don't remember off the top of my head what other 5 Pokemon this team has, so I can't really judge these Terra decisions. Or I can't really... I'm not trying to judge anyway, but I can't really fully analyze them right now. Anyway, the Cramorant goes for Dive. I hope we see Gulp Missile activate. Gulp Missile is always so funny to me. Calyrex takes Ditto takes Expanding Force pretty well, but its own Expanding Force doesn't do a whole lot. Indeedee sets Trick Room. They are kind of giving the Bellibolt Dive Birds here, if you know Dive Cats. By setting Trick Room there, they kind of turn this Cramorant into a Dive Bird, but Indeedee goes for Hyper Voice. Okay, I mean, that's a good reason for the Steel Terror on Ditto, actually. You resist both of Indeedee's stabs. That might be part of the vision. Expanding Force from the Ditto. So it's certainly not... Well, we know it's not a Scarf Ditto because it went after the real Calyrex last turn. But now in Trick Room, unless the Ditto is holding like a... What's it called? An Iron Ball? Either that's the case or it lost the speed tie, but now it wins the speed tie here. Either way, it knocks out the Calyrex through the Psychic Seed boost. Indeedee's kind of on its own, takes a fair bit from that dive. Are we going to see a Gulp Missile KO? Does it KO from here? Yep. Okay, love the Gulp Missile KO. I don't know why. Cramorant, it seems like kind of a plain Pokemon design, but I really like Cramorant. It's just such a funny guy, and Gulp Missile is just such a funny ability. So seeing it close out this game is a pretty nice touch. We go now to game 2, and if you're the Grovyles... I mean, I've just been assuming that they brought a Sun mode. I don't actually know for sure, but... I mean, yeah, maybe we're looking for a way to get that going here. I still feel like the Houndoom is an absolute menace. I think it might have been Scarfed and locked into Beat Up in game 1. And honestly, if it doesn't do that and just throws off some attacks on its own, assuming it has something available, it might be even more dangerous. Because the Granbull was hitting pretty hard, but honestly, I don't know that the Granbull setup was really that valuable, so you might have to really watch out for the Houndoom if they decide to just change the way that they're playing it, but we'll see what adjustments they make. We get Oranguru and Bellibolt here. That's what shiny Bellibolt looks like. That's wild. Anyway, against Sun, the Jumpluff, and Sawsbuck, so there could be a Sun mode coming out after I've been talking about it all this time. Terra Steel on the Bellibolt. That's the second Steel Terra we've seen in this matchup. I mean, it does resist Jumpluff stabs. We see it take that Energy Ball pretty nicely. It resists Sawsbuck stabs. I would expect Sawsbuck to maybe have coverage for it in this matchup, but it resists Calyrex's stabs and Indeedee. So I guess Steel is just a generally strong defensive type as long as you're careful around the Charmeleon and maybe some coverage on the Sawsbuck. It certainly hasn't been punished so far. The crit Headbutt doesn't do very much to Oranguru. We see Bellibolt throw off a Discharge. Oranguru with Telepathy takes no damage. Oranguru does get flinched. Jumpluff is paralyzed. Jumpluff going for Strength Sap into Bellibolt. That'll heal. Ooh, that does not heal it very much. And of course, Bellibolt is spamming that Discharge, so it's not going to be weakened at all by the Strength Sap. Not a ton of damage all around here, but now Sawsbuck gets paralyzed, and Trick Room is up. It is a little bit... Well, in theory, it's a little bit awkward to paralyze your opponents and set Trick Room, but the Bellibolt is still going first here, so it's okay. Parabolic Charge now, keeping itself nice and healthy. And a Bulldoze from Oranguru. What is it, a weakness policy, Bellibolt? Or just going for the Electromorphosis? Nope, it does have a weakness policy. So now it's a +2 special attack. These two Pokemon, I think, are going to melt pretty quickly, even though they've been taking the attacks well so far. They did just miss a Discharge, so unless there's something I'm missing, I think that's just Bright Powder Jumpluff, isn't it? Yeah, there's no evasiveness boost or anything. So I guess it's just Bright Powder Jumpluff. Discharge is 100 accuracy. But the Sawsbuck did go down there. I was also... Oh, 2 full paras. Yeah, then the missed Discharge. I didn't even catch the full paras at first. But that Discharge spam in Trick Room, after a Bulldoze, it's dropped speed, so you can't even underspeed it very reliably, but then also you get the weakness policy. This is why people were worried about Oranguru and Bellibolt. This duo is a menace. And of course you can spam Discharge next to Oranguru as well. We see Brionne and Charmeleon, but we don't get to see what they were cooking, as the Charmeleon just gets one shot. The Brionne lands a Hyper Voice, doesn't do a whole lot. And the Instruct on top, so you can spam the Discharge even harder. I don't think I play the Big Mode Bellibolt in the regular season, and I think I'm relieved that I don't, unless I'm mistaken, and I actually do. Because, yeah, I thought about banning Oranguru during the ban round, as I mentioned. And, I mean, maybe Clefairy would have been a menace on someone's team, but, yeah, I hope I don't have to face this. That Bellibolt Oranguru duo certainly made a statement to start the season here. I guess I'll go to Bulbapedia quickly and check on... I don't know the best path. Fire Pledge. The rainbow doubles the probability of additional effects taking place for moves used by that side of the field, including the chance of flinching caused by King's Rock and Razor Fang, but not including Secret Power. This effect is cumulative with Serene Grace for chances to cause a stat change or inflict a status, but not for chances to cause flinching. Okay, so for my future reference in future videos, Serene Grace Sawsbuck already has, what, a 60% chance to get a flinch to with Headbutt, but that is not increased by the Rainbow combo. That's good to know. I've already clicked to the next set, so you can see what it is. We got the Tiny Crowns taking on Pendragon United here. On the United side... There's no Pelipper this week. I remember Pelipper, it was the first overall pick, and I thought it could enable some strong rain stuff. But that rain stuff is not to be found here unless there's a manual rain setter. We do see Crawdaunt and Vikavolt, both very powerful attackers. We do see multiple ways to redirect electric attacks away from Crawdaunt with the Pachirisu and the Rhydon. There could be Trick Room stuff here. I think Misdreavus gets Trick Room. With an Eviolite or a Focus Sash, you can probably get the Trick Room set up. You also have redirection from Pachirisu and two very slow, powerful attackers in Rhydon and Vikavolt. I don't know Crawdaunt's base speed. You could probably make it slow. And then there's a Scraggy as well, but I don't necessarily know what the game plan is here. On the Crown side, they have their own plausible Trick Room mode with Camerupt and Chimecho, but I could also see Manual Sun, maybe with the Persian setting the Sun. And then Lilycole at home with Hisuian Lilligant and Camerupt. Of course, Camerupt, well, you get the Manual Sun. You don't need to worry about Camerupt setting the Sun. And then actually Camerupt, I think, hits harder than Torkoal. And they got Hisuian Lilligant while I just have Univern one. So there may be something there. Don't know. The Raichu brings Fake Out to it. I don't necessarily know what it's here for otherwise. The Persian also has Fake Out, of course. The Raichu also could do Speed Control if they ran a fast mode, but it doesn't look all that strong into this. And I don't know what the Golduck is doing here, but we're just going to have to find out. This is how it goes. It's early season. We're still finding out how they play. Pachirisu and Crawdaunt lead against Raichu and Persian. So all kinds of things that could happen here, and I am just going to click play, and we'll see what happens. Crawdaunt protects. Around a possible Fake Out. We see Fake Out come out from the Raichu into Pachirisu, and Persian goes straight for a Parting Shot into Crawdaunt, but it is blocked. Raichu protects here. There's a Follow Me. Pachirisu gets its safety goggles knocked off. Okay, covering for a Sleep Powder from the Lilligant, but it can take a nap now if that's what they want. Crawdaunt goes for its own knockoff into Raichu, but Raichu protects. We get another Follow Me, but now Pachirisu is taunted. Okay, so I guess they were covering for a Mental Herb, and now they know for the rest of the set that Pachirisu does not have a Mental Herb, but it's taunted. It can't click Follow Me anymore. It's probably not bringing a whole lot else to the table other than that. Raichu goes straight for a Surf. Crits its teammate. That's a little bit awkward. But I get some damage into the other two. And then just gets one-shot by a knockoff. And we see that it was eject button Raichu, but it will not be... I mean, it will be vacating the field right now, but it will not be coming back in later. Here's the Hisuian Lilligant. We see Terra flying on the Crawdaunt, so that might just be blasting this Lilligant out of here. It will take a Parting Shot first. Camerupt in. Lilligant does just get one shot. So Lilligant, by the way, does not have a Focus Sash, nor does Raichu. It remains to be seen what, if anything, does. But the crowns now are down to just Persian and Camerupt. And we see Misdreavus come in for United. Misdreavus just protects. We see a Lumberry knocked off of the Crawdaunt. Persian, potentially with that fur coat, not taking very much from the Flying Terror Blast. And now Crawdaunt is burned by a Will-O-Wisp. Okay. Not doing a whole lot to the Camerupt at this point either. We see... Okay, the Mental Herb is on Misdreavus. We see that now thanks to the knockoff. Crown's doing a good job here of revealing items, gathering information. Persian gets burned by Will-O-Wisp from Misdreavus. Okay. Heat Wave from Camerupt knocks out the Crawdaunt, which is not a water type anymore. Now we see Rhydon come in. It's going to get its Assault Vest knocked off immediately. I guess the Eviolite must be on Scraggy then, because there's no there's no reason you'd run Assault Vest on Rhydon unless your Eviolite is busy somewhere else. We know it's not on Mischievous, so a lot of information here about these items just from this knockoff spam. And Rhydon, after losing its Assault Vest, does drop to an Earth Power from Camerupt, and Persian should be able to clean it up from here, or Camerupt, because that'll go first now that Mischievous has set up the Trick Room. So solid Game 1 win there from the Tiny Crowns. Like I said, they gathered a lot of information, but also they picked apart the opponent's team pretty effectively, even as that Flying Terra Blast Crawdaunt removed a couple of their Pokemon quickly. It just wasn't enough. We go now to Game 2. And we'll see Crawdaunt leading again, this time with Scraggy against Raichu and Persian again. There's an Intimidate, but Crawdaunt does just let itself get faked out this time. Raichu gets faked out back, but too late to flinch. We see the eject button activate and bring in Lilligant. It would be pretty cool. I guess it doesn't work because unless the Crawdaunt has a Covert Cloak, I think we know its item, right? Is it a Lumberry? It would be pretty cool if the Crawdaunt weren't faked out there, if they got rid of the Raichu with Fake Out and then Terra Flying, Terra Blasted the Lilligant. It's not a realistic play to expect, but it would have been pretty exciting. Lilligant comes in. We see the Eviolite knocked off of the Scraggy. There's the Terra Flying Crawdaunt again. Lilligant protecting this time as Crawdaunt gets knocked off. It was a Lumberry. I remembered that correctly. It's Scraggy coaching the Crawdaunt. That Crawdaunt is going to be a menace now. Of course, Raichu can come back in and threaten it, but not so easily with Pachirisu on the field. Oh, we see Feint on the Crawdaunt. So they call it Protect. They land a Poison Jab. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but you know, any damage helps at this point. Oh, it is Terra Poison Lilligant as well, so it won't be weak to that Terra Blast anymore. And it gets stabbed on that Poison Jab. Still looks like it'll take a couple more to knock out Crawdaunt, though. And easier said than done with the Pachirisu here. Pachirisu now goes for Nuzzle into Persian. But it gets taunted back for trouble, so it can't click Follow Me. Of course, they found out in Game 1 that the Pachirisu didn't have the Mental Herb, so that's a pretty easy play to make. Scraggy able to pivot in with the Intimidate, and even without its Eviolite, it's going to take that Poison Jab pretty well. Pachirisu missing a Super Fang as Persian Parting shoots out, and we get Camerupt in. And now there's that after you spread fire damage stuff. There's no sun on the field, but the Camerupt is still going to hit hard with those Heat Waves. Unfortunate for it that it misses the Vikavolt. And now Lilligant gets paralyzed. There's so much going on in this game. But yeah, they got their one after you Heat Wave off, but they missed what would have been a really nice KO. Crawdaunt Vikavolt on the board. Vikavolt protects. Crawdaunt drops the Heat Wave though. Now that it's a flying type. Pachirisu no longer taunted, able to set Rain Dance for Vikavolt, so there is that manual rain before Pachirisu goes down. Nerfs that Heat Wave nicely. Vikavolt able to take it, throw back a Struggle Bug. Camerupt's damage is weakened now. Scraggy comes back in again with the Intimidate. Big crit fake out into Camerupt. And that Leaf Blade is just doing sad damage to the Vikavolt, which we see recover with a Citrus Berry. Camerupt resisting the Bug Buzz, but overall, the Vikavolt just has more damage on the board than anything else. And yeah, Raichu can come in, but oh my god, it gets crit by that Foul Play. It's not going to take a Bug Buzz super well either. Vikavolt protecting here around the Fake Out, as Raichu just goes for a Surf, knocks out his partner. That crit didn't matter, but it is funny that the Raichu keeps critting its teammates. Might have brought a little bit too much aggression to this set, huh? Might need the coach to get it to calm down in future weeks. Then Raichu gets knocked out by Scraggy, and we see Persian, we see Lilligant. They're both paralyzed. Lilligant fully paralyzed, and knocked out by a crit Foul Play. What is happening in this set? And the Persian is not going to take that Bug Buzz. So, Pendragon United. What do I say about the adjustment here? Well, they did very well at weakening their opponent's damage. That's basically what it came down to. Pivoting the Scraggy around made a big difference here. Especially with the Lilligant just not doing enough. And clicking Nuzzle with the Pachirisu once they knew that it was threatened by the taunt. So the other side got paralyzed, they got attack dropped, they eventually got special attack dropped by the Struggle Bug Vikavolt. And United were able to keep a pretty tight grip on this match up. So we go now to Game 3, and we'll see whether the Crowns can find an adjustment to beat the Scraggy and bring this one home. I actually don't remember the outcome, so we'll find out together. Crawdont Pachirisu lead against Raichu and Camerupt. Fake out straight into the Crawdont and protected around Fake Out game 1 and has never done that again. But anyway, Pachirisu with the Follow Me a little bit late. Almost drops to that Earth Power, but not quite. We see another Follow Me, but Raichu going for the Surf. Camerupt protects, so it's not knocked out by its partner this time. Raichu just stays critting everything in sight. Friend, foe, doesn't matter. If Raichu sees you, it's going to crit you. Pachirisu knocked out. Raichu knocked out back. We knew already that the knockoff one-shots. We see Vikavolt come in now and Lilligant. But the Pachirisu is not here to spread paralysis. The Lilligant can Terra Poison, cover for Flying Terra Blast from the Crawdont, or even, this even helps to take a Bug Buzz. And we can see... they might be calling that the Crawdont will Terra here, and we might just see after you Heat Wave. We'll find out. But it's actually the Vikavolt going Terra Poison, and Camerupt just gets knocked out by an Aqua Jet. So perhaps I should have called that one, but maybe the Crowns didn't either. And we see Chimecho appearing for the first time. They didn't bring Persian to this one. But there have been so many crits in this set. It is unbelievable. Lilligant drops to an Aqua Jet crit. Chimecho with the Psychic Noise does not quite KO the Vikavolt. I think it'll just drop to a Bug Buzz here. Yeah, so I don't know what the adjustment was that the Crowns went for there. Okay, Alluring Voice or Psychic Noise Chimecho. I'm guessing it had Alluring Voice. I'm guessing it learns Alluring Voice. I'm not even 100% certain, but maybe that was the adjustment for the Scraggy. But yeah, they lost Camerupt to the Aqua Jet, and the whole thing just unraveled from there. But I think they were probably anticipating a Flying Terra Blast, right? Because the Crawdont just went for that in front of Lilligant in both of the other two games. So that was a good switch up from Pendragon United to defy the opponent's expectations and just break this game wide open. Really solid play. Up next, we have the West Coast Pincurchins taking on the Varsity Farmboys. And there is that mighty hyena. We are going to find out what happened. This is some vintage Varsity Farmboys stuff, this team, even though it's a lower power format and some of their old favorites, like our Chaladon and Garganacl, are banned. That Clodsire, that Reuniclus, Altaria, even Scizor look like Pokemon that can sit on the field for quite a while and wear an opposing team down, and I would not be surprised to see that kind of game plan once again. Although Reuniclus and Clodsire together also suggests a possible Trick Room mode. The Sneasel, I could see just... Hisui and Sneasel must get coaching, right? Because Sneasler does. So I could see something like that to make Scizor or even Clodsire hit harder. The Mighty hyena, it gets Intimidate. I don't necessarily know what else it's here for. On the Pincurchin side, we have Talonflame and Gengar. Possible fast offense there, also with Tatsugiri. So they might just look to blow the opposing team up. Even Plusle could help with that. But we also see the Golurk, which I think of as more of a strong Trick Room attacker. And the Hisuian Quillfish. I don't know. There are multiple ways they could approach this. Gengar learns Trick Room. It might also get manual weather moves. So there could even be maybe a rain thing happening with Quillfish and Tatsugiri. But I really don't know. We're just going to have to jump in and see what these two teams do, because the Pincurchins draft especially has had me kind of stumped, but we'll find out together. We do see the Mighty hyena lead with the Sneasel against Talonflame and Golurk. You see that Intimidate from Mighty hyena. Golurk goes immediately for Terra Fighting. Talonflame gets faked out, but as a Covert Cloak, sets Tailwind. And Golurk goes straight for a Dynamic Punch into Sneasel. It's resisted, but it still does half. It's guaranteed to confuse. And the Golurk, we can assume, is running No Guard, because Dynamic Punch, 50 accuracy, you're not running that move without No Guard. But it's Life Orb Golurk as well. But yeah, they just went for it. It's going to take a foul play from Mighty hyena, but it is resisted, and at -1 attack, yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot. Talonflame just knocks out Sneasel with a Brave Bird. And we see the Dynamic Punch into Mighty hyena, 80%, okay, and it's confused. And it self-hits. Now we got Reuniclus coming in, goes straight for a Terra Dark. Talonflame finishes off Mighty hyena. It is, of course, the fastest Pokemon on the field, even with Gale Wings not available. Reuniclus Terra Dark in front of this Golurk. I mean, maybe you don't expect them to just click Dynamic Punch into it, but it is a little bit bold, huh? But it does go for Poltergeist. It is resisted. We see that the Reuniclus has a Life Orb, which is not surprising. It's a really good item on Reuniclus. And they get their Trick Room. Okay, so the Farmboys probably still in this. Golurk protects. Clodsire looking to set up with Curse. Yeah, the Golurk gets through one turn of Trick Room. Flareblast doesn't do a whole lot to that Reuniclus. Yeah, Reuniclus, I mean, I was a little bit skeptical of the Terra Dark, but you know that it's not choiced Golurk because you've seen the Life Orb damage, and you're not expecting it to click Dynamic Punch into a resist right away. So that actually was a really solid Terra Dark because they just needed that one turn to set up the Trick Room. So just get through the Poltergeist, and I mean, whether or not it works, this was their only out. We see the Quillfish come in. Also, the Talonflame could have Taunt, but hasn't shown it. Didn't taunt the Reuniclus, so good odds now that it doesn't have that. But since it's not Prankster boosted, it would still work on Dark-type Reuniclus. But no, that Terra Dark worked out perfectly. Quillfish does show the Intimidate, so no Swift Swim, Manual Rain stuff. That did seem like a bit of a reach. But switching in that Psychic immunity is nice for the Golurk, and it wastes another turn of Reuniclus's time. Clodsire is still going for the Curse setup. Reuniclus goes for Recover. We see Throat Chop from Quillfish. Reuniclus is leaving itself a little bit vulnerable to damage, but we know Talonflame doesn't knock it out here. And I mean, Quillfish, maybe it's running a Poison Stab. If not, if it only has its Dark Stab, Reuniclus resists that. So Reuniclus is in a pretty safe position to go for that Recover, and it looks like it will work out. Yeah, it takes a fair bit from the Flare Blitz, but then Talonflame drops to Recoil. We see the Gengar come in now, but it's the last turn of Trick Room. Do they have Protect on Gengar? They do. They double Protect through it. Clodsire gets itself to +2 attack. Reuniclus gets itself healthy. And we see Dazzling Gleam from the Gengar. Does a lot to Reuniclus, not as much to Clodsire, but not enough for that Throat Chop to knock Reuniclus out. Gengar will almost drop to a higher horsepower, but it shows the Focus Sash. Trick Room goes right back up, and that should seal it, I would think. Hard to imagine Quillfish soloing this. There is still the Golurk in the back, but that just drops to a Poison Jab, +2, not resisted anymore. Quillfish showing Terra Blast, but it's not terastallized. Who's to say what type that was intended to be, but it was probably intended to be physical, and before you terastallize, it's not. So Quillfish not able to pull this one back. And yeah, the key turn really just was that Terra Dark Reuniclus in front of the Golurk, getting the Trick Room up and getting the Clodsire going. But that's probably not going to work a second time, so we'll see what they have here in Game 2. Mightyena leading again, this time with Altaria against Gengar and Golurk. So they get the Intimidate immediately. Mightyena shows the Terra Fairy. Well, we knew it has that because we saw that image. Gengar going straight for an Icy Wind. Chips both of them. Does less than I might have thought to Altaria, considering the double weakness. But they do get their speed dropped. Golurk gets a Dynamic Punch into Mightyena. Not very effective. Does confuse. And Golurk gets burned by Altaria's Will-O-Wisp. And Gengar takes a bunch back from Psychic Fangs. The Farmboys running some interesting coverage this week. Although, yeah, Will-O-Wisp Altaria is pretty normal. Gengar goes for another Icy Wind, but yeah, that's not a 2-hit KO into the Altaria, so nothing knocked out yet, and Altaria even shows a Citrus Berry, and then takes Stone Edge from the burned Golurk, and goes for Perish Song. Mightyena Snarl knocks out Gengar, it chips Golurk. That's why Mightyena had a Perish counter, I guess. It was from its own teammate. We see Tatsugiri come in here, and Quillfish switches in. Tatsugiri going for that Icy Wind. They're just spamming Icy Wind from this one slot so far this game. Mightyena with a ton of speed drops. And yeah, Mightyena really going through some things here. Minus something speed. -1 probably attack. Because there's a 1 Intimidate, right? Confused, Perish counter, and disabled by the Gengar's Cursed Body. But it can still click Foul Play into Quillfish for a little bit of chip, not that much. Clodsire comes in now. We see the Quillfish go for Surf to set up the Storm Drain Tatsugiri, so that's pretty cool. I'm not the only Surf Storm Drain player in Week 1. And it actually does damage the Clodsire. The Clodsire does not have Water Absorb, so probably it has Unaware, but it doesn't do very much. The main thing it's here for is to boost the Tatsugiri, and even then Clodsire takes that Dragon Pulse pretty well. Quillfish drops to a double up there. Mighty Hyena is almost at the end of its perish counter. We'll see if it switches out. It actually doesn't. And +1 Tatsugiri, still not doing that much to Clodsire. That must be especially bulky. The Mighty Hyena... I also think they probably expected that to KO the Clodsire, because otherwise... Well, okay, hang on. Altaria is knocked out. I don't think we know what's in the back, right? But it's a good guess that it's Reuniclus because they have the Clodsire, so they might be going for Drickrem stuff again. So actually, I think what they were probably doing there was trying to catch the Reuniclus with Poltergeist. But instead, Mighty Hyena is just allowed to go down to it, and Reuniclus comes in here. It was in the back, but they kept it hidden. They do manage to knock out the Clodsire. Reuniclus takes a lot from that Poltergeist, but Golurk drops to its own Life Orb. Reuniclus gets Trick Room up, now can recover. Tatsugiri is at -1 special attack, and yeah, it's just not doing that much damage. And the Pincurchins definitely brought some interesting techs this week, but I feel like just not doing enough damage was pretty much the story across the board, as this is some classic Varsity Farmboys bulky gameplay. They actually kind of end up stalling out their own Trick Room there, but it doesn't matter, as a Psychic will knock out Tatsugiri, and the Varsity Farmboys show that they can still do it even with some of their old favorite Pokemon banned. Of course, Altaria is carried over from last season. Next, we have the Alberta Applin taking on Drago's Children. The Applin have their super interesting Sun mode. They've brought 4 Fire types to this matchup, but they have the Drought available with Vulpix, and they also have probably Prankster Sunny Day with the Volbeat, so they should be good in terms of weather control. The Volbeat, of course, can also set Tailwind, and it can be disruptive in other ways. I think it gets Encore, which could be useful into something like a Trick Room game plan. And then, yeah, the Quilava could be running like Scarf Eruption or Specs Eruption if you trust your speed control. I could see the Quilava running Lava Plume to set up the Well-Baked Body on the Darkspawn. You got Carkol able to maybe play in Trick Room, maybe boost his speed with Steam Engine, throw off Fire-type attacks. You've got Flareon, which could be running like a Calm Mind special Fire attack set, or just like Guts physical stuff. But either way, a lot of Pokemon that are potentially boosted by the sun, and again, they definitely have ways to set up the Darkspawn if that's what they want to do as well. On the Drago's Children side, I've realized pretty early on that I'm going to be calling this team the Children when I want to abbreviate it, and we're just going to deal with that. We definitely see what looks like a Trick Room game plan, with the Dusclops and the Galarian Slowbro both being very strong Trick Room setters, and they have the Munchlax with the Poltergeist too, so they could be trying to set up Belly Drum Munchlax. Use Poltergeist to keep it healthy. Poltergeist probably gets Trick Room because Sinistcha does. So you have multiple possible Trick Room setters to give that Munchlax speed control. And Munchlax has one of the lowest speed stats in the game. It's literally capable of having 9 speed, which is really something. But then the other 2 Pokemon are Blitzel and Kleavor. I'm not necessarily sure what those bring. Well, I think what Kleavor brings to the table is pretty straightforward. It's a Rock type into a bunch of Fire types. It can hit, and a Volbeat, it can hit most of this team really hard. Honestly, the only one that stands up to it well at face value is Darkspawn, although if you get the speed control right, it's probably not taking an Eruption super well back, or the Carkol could threaten it with the Rock Stab. But yeah, Kleavor is a massive offensive threat here, and it could be running like Room Service even. We'll have to wait and see, but I definitely don't know what the Blitzel is here for. We see Dusclops leading with Kleavor against Flareon and Volbeat. We see Flame Orb Flareon and Covert Cloak Volbeat. So I actually did know that this is a physical Flareon. Even though I was supposedly speculating about a special attacking set, there's no reason they can't bring that in any given week. But there was a little bit of talk about this Flareon set in the Discord afterward, because of course the awkward thing about a Flame Orb is that being a Fire type, it's immune to being burned, so it can't activate Guts unless it terrestrializes. So this Flareon, if you run Toxic Orb on Flareon, then you don't have to worry about that. And I think I did when I had Flareon in a past season. The worry with Toxic Orb is that, of course, the damage increases over time because it's quote-unquote bad poison. It's toxic poison, so you can't leave Flareon sitting on the field very long. But with a Flame Orb, yeah, you never get that Guts boost unless you terrestrialize Flareon, so we'll see how that plays out. But it is leading here with Volbeat. And we just see it protect this turn. Oh, also its Terra type can't be Fire or Stellar, obviously. We can safely assume that it isn't if it's running a Flame Orb. Volbeat sets the Tailwind. Kleavor just goes straight for a Stone Axe, and it does knock out Volbeat. And the other thing about... I talked about Kleavor being an offensive Rock type, but also Stealth Rock is kind of a nightmare for this Applin lineup. Everything except Darkspawn is weak to it. So Kleavor is just a crazy opponent for them to have to face here. See, Quilava takes that damage immediately. It is optimized to take minimal damage, but even so, it's not going to click Eruption as comfortably. They also don't have the Sun up right now. And the only way, with Volbeat knocked out, most likely, they could have Sunny Day on one of these, but more likely the only way they get the Sun up is if they switch Vulpix in, and then Vulpix takes that Stealth Rock damage, and whatever they switch out also takes it when it comes back in. So Stealth Rock actually potentially super important to this matchup. I didn't even really talk about that when I saw the Kleavor preview, but... Oh, we see Rain Dance on the Dusclops, and Flareon just drops to a Stone Axe. Quilava does show the Sunny Day, and in Trick Room it actually gets Weather Control here until the Dusclops clicks Rain Dance on the next turn. Munchlax switches in for Kleavor, gets burned. We see the Carkol, we see the Lava Plume. That'll set up the Steam Engine on the Carkol, get it straight to +6. Lava Plume otherwise not doing much damage for the opponents here in the rain. Munchlax does get its Belly Drum, but it is burned, so we'll see exactly what that accomplishes. But yeah, these Pokemon are just not doing very much damage. Of course, the classic Colossal strategies would use a weakness policy and some kind of water attack with Colossal. But part of the reason that worked is you would Dynamax the Colossal, you double its HP, and then you keep your water attack very weak. You'd use something like a Weavile with Surf, or Aqua-Jet on usually a not very physically strong attacker. But in this case, there's no weakness policy. And of course, it's harder to pull off in Scarlet and Violet because you can't Dynamax your Colossal. And also, this is a Carkol, not a Colossal. I did in early Reg A experiment with Terra Fire Colossal, so I'd get the weakness policy with just a single weakness, and then I'd also get the Terra Fire boost on my Heat Wave. But there's nothing like that here. They used Lava Plume to set up the Steam Engine, and without any Terra, so the Carkol is at +6 speed, but we're seeing a Carkol's special attack stat here. Now we get the Poltergeist switching in, again helping to keep the Munchlax healthy. We get the Hospitality, and it can click Life Dew or something if it wants. It actually takes a lot from that Eruption. At 3/4 HP and Rain, that Quilava is still not playing around here. And that plus a crit Power Gem knocks Poltergeist out, so we won't be able to see that support the Munchlax much more. But now we see the Dusclops come back. We see its Eviolite Carkol and Charcoal Quilava. So yeah, that Quilava does hit pretty hard. But the Carkol has a bit of trouble with that. It does some chip to the Munchlax there. It's not terrible. But the Eruption isn't doing much. Does Munchlax get Thick Fat? It does. It also gets Gluttony. What berry did it use? Citrus? So it probably has Thick Fat. And Quilava drops here to a Body Slam. Dusclops sets the Trick Room back up. We see Terra Rock on the Carkol, but it does drop to a Munchlax Brick Break. So even with the burn, +6 Munchlax able to clean up in this game. And yeah, we'll see what the Applin bring to Game 2. The Rain Dance Dusclops is a real problem for the Sun mode. And they just weren't able to create enough of a threat into Munchlax. Plus, Kleavor was still lurking in the back after it was just one-shotting things earlier. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Darkspawn in Game 2 because I don't know what else they have that can stand up to Kleavor, but I guess we'll find out. As we see Dusclops leading with Kleavor against Flareon and Volbeat. So I believe that's the same leads as Game 1. Flareon showing the Terra Normal, so it will get its burn now. As Volbeat just goes straight for a Tail Glow, maybe looking to Baton Pass out to something, but it just gets one-shot by Stone Axe again. I can't imagine Volbeat is here to attack in its own right, so yeah, it could be carrying Baton Pass and trying to give a boost to either Carkol or Quilava, or even Vulpix. But yeah, Quilava comes in, Trick Room is up, Rain Dance is up, Flareon does get that Guts boost, like I said, gets a Terra boosted Facade into Kleavor, but it is resisted, and you're not any better off targeting Dusclops because it's immune. Kleavor survives. But then it does drop to the Quilava's Eruption, so spoke too soon on that one. Flareon putting in some work. The single greatest threat on the other side is removed, but now the Munchlax is here, able to set up a Belly Drum. Can the Flareon knock it out before it gets going offensively? Ooh, skill swap on the Dusclops takes away the Flareon's guts. So now the Flareon is nerfed by its own burn. And Munchlax should once again be really well positioned here. This Dusclops is going crazy this week. Trick Room, Rain Dance, skill swap. Just great tech after great tech for this matchup. But the Facade still knocks out Munchlax. And I guess there's the problem with your D-tier goat if you're Drago's children here. Munchlax, genuinely really scary in Trick Room if it gets the belly drum set up. But yeah, it just got... of course, Facade is still boosted by a burn, actually. Even without guts, the move is still boosted. Bursted, I was about to say. The move is still bursted. So it's not that crazy, but yeah. They do... I was really impressed by the skill swap, but the Munchlax still just drops anyway. Quilava sets up Sunny Day now. They get Poltergeist in, but their offensive threats are gone. Kleavor, Munchlax, both knocked out. I don't know that Dusclops and Poltergeist can close this one out together. Poltergeist does like okay damage there to the Flareon, but Flareon able to click the Lava Plume, and we see that it's Flash Fire Quilava, so multiple ways to set up the Darkspawn if they do finally bring that in Game 3, but also they can set up the Quilava here. It'll get some extra damage. They also get a burn into Dusclops, which, you know, chip damage doesn't hurt. Eruption, I don't know that that crit mattered into Poltergeist. That's going to be a strong Eruption regardless, but yeah, I think Dusclops just is just going to get overpowered here, especially as they can set Sunny Day with the Quilava. So I really like the Quilava set too. But the Dusclops can click either Rain Dance or, well, it doesn't have an attack. We've seen all its moves, but also if it clicks Rain Dance, it's not clicking anything else. It doesn't matter. Dusclops has no way to win this. It's just kind of bad form in a draft league like this where you track stats to forfeit because you are trying to track what specific Pokemon got what KOs and so on. So that's why we won't see the children forfeit here. But there we go. Quilava closes this out. Dusclops is never winning that. The fact that Facade still KO'd without Guts caught me by surprise. I mean, I was thinking the same thing in my initial commentary, but again, Facade, the move, is itself boosted by status. So it actually makes sense. In any case, the Applin had enough tricks up their sleeve to deal with the absolute threats of Kleavor and Munchlax, and we saw that the children didn't have a whole lot once those two went down. We'll see if anything different happens in Game 3. Will we finally see the Darkspawn? It's Kleavor Dusclops, Flareon Quilava, so I think 3 of the same lead Pokemon, but the Quilava is here right away this time. Are they just going to go straight for Lava Plume Eruption? Paranormal on the Flareon again, getting that burn, and Quilava just drops to a Stone Axe. The Kleavor is always just one-shotting something. The Applin never solved that part of the matchup, so we won't be seeing any big Eruption damage in this game. Dusclops going straight for the Rain Dance. And we do finally see the Vulpix come in. It sets the drought, but again, Rain Dance Dusclops. That sun is probably disappearing in a moment. And the Quilava had Sunny Day. It's knocked out. I don't know that either of these has Sunny Day. We've seen Flareon use Facade, Protect, Lava Plume. I don't remember whether he's seen its last move. We certainly don't know whether Vulpix has Sunny Day, but yeah, losing the Quilava could hurt a lot there. We see a Terra Rock on the Kleavor. And Stone Axe knocks out Flareon, even though it's not a fire type anymore. Dusclops doesn't take that much from the Vulpix Fire Blast. Now the rain is up. And we see Carkol in the back. So the Applin just brought all 4 of their fire types to Game 3. Stone Axe takes another one. Kleavor finally gets burned by that Carkol Will-O-Wisp, but the skill swap is interesting, taking the Steam Engine away. Anyway. Burn Stone Axe. Still only take a couple of those to knock out Carkol. The Dusclops is just goofing off, I think, at this point. It doesn't really have anything to do, so it's just clicking that skill swap, passing abilities around. But Carkol isn't threatening any significant damage to Kleavor. Doesn't really do any significant damage to Dusclops either, and Kleavor is just going to clean this one up. 5 turns, 4 Kleavor KOs, right? Carkol was the only one that took a single hit, and that was in large part because the Kleavor was burned at that point. So absolutely dominant performance from Kleavor here, and I don't play the Applin in the regular season, but I certainly would bring Sudowoodo if I did. So they're going to have to watch out for some of these matchups in the coming weeks. Next we have the Azure Bay Chatots taking on the Ontario Minccinos. The outcome of this one was actually written a little bit ambiguously in the Discord. I think I know what it is, but I could be in for a surprise. Either way, of course, I won't say right now. The Chatots have Thwackey and Driftblim, so possible unburdened stuff. I mean, they have pretty much what I talked about, I think, in the draft recap, right? They can set up the unburdened Driftblim, they can get Tailwind if they want, or they can spread Will-O-Wisp, Strength Sap, any other support the Driftblim gets. They have the Bastrodon, so they can set that up. Maybe get like an Iron Defense Body Press game going. In front of Politoed and Clawitzer, you probably have to have a good Terra type for that. I could see maybe Grass in this matchup. But yeah, they can use that as a setup Pokemon. They have Comfey to heal it with Floral Healing, which also gets boosted by Grassy Terrain. They have Elekid for redirection, at least for a little bit. The Passimian... well, they could be running Defiant, in which case you get boosted by an Intimidate from Torracat. Is there like a really interesting reason to run Receiver this week? I'm not certain that there is. Maybe you could do something with Unburden. Maybe you could run like... I think Driftblim gets Memento. It might also get Explosion. I don't know if it gets Explosion anymore. But maybe there's something you could do there to get an Unburdened Passimian going. How would that work then? How do you set that up? Because you also need the Passimian to lose its item. That seems a little bit complicated, but maybe they have some crazy tech. But a lot of this... like it seems pretty straightforward what the basics of their game plan probably are. The Passimian is a little bit of a wild card. It could just be, it could also be like bulk up stuff supported by Elekid, Thwackey, Comfey. We'll find out. On the I was gonna say the Furrets. This looks like last season's Foraging Furrets, but no. On the Minccinos side, the Furrets are coming up later. Definitely some Trick Room options with Mimikyu and Gothorita able to set up for Clawitzer. Yeah, they have their own redirection with Furret, unless they really are pulling a Foraging Furrets and just bringing Choice Band or Choice Specs. The Politoed setting up Rain is good for the Clawitzer as well. It could be an absolute offensive menace in Trick Room, doing a ton of damage. Or they could be running Perish Trap with Politoed and Gothorita. And then you have the Torracat doing, you know, Baby Incineroar stuff, Teenage Incineroar stuff. We'll figure out the exact game plan as we go. Thwackey and Passimian leading against Furret and Mimikyu. Okay. We see, thanks to the Frisk Furret, we see that it's Miracle Seed Thwackey, boosting that grass damage, and it's Life Orb Passimian. Furret just protects turn 1, and so does Mimikyu. Okay, they're scouting it out. Grassy Glide into the Mimikyu. Disguise not broken this turn. They did just go for a Grassy Glide Iron Head double up. Trying to get rid of the Mimikyu, presumably before it could set Trick Room. But of course now they can click Follow Me in Trick Room if they want. And it looks like that is what's going to happen here on turn 2. Oh, it's not Trick Room, it's Swords Dance. So Furret sacrifices itself, but Mimikyu is now +2 attack with its Disguise still intact. And now they get Politoed in. Terra Poison on the Mimikyu. Knocks out Thwackey. Gets his Disguise broken, but I mean, that's all the first hit can do. There also was no Grassy Glide from the Thwackey this time. Or else the Iron Head wouldn't be targeting into a weakness anymore, but it would do damage beyond the Disguise breaking if they'd gone for Grassy Glide again. So I don't know. I don't know why they didn't. I'm not sure what they were. Not sure what the adjustment was there from the Chatots. But we see Weather Ball and the Politoed knock out the Passimian. We see Comfey and Bastrodon are the two Pokemon in the back. So it looked like they're... So the Chatots, I guess, were trying to remove certain threats quickly and then probably do a Bastrodon setup. I don't see the entire vision still, but we can piece some of it together. Comfey, unfortunately, just doesn't do a ton of damage. That priority Giga Drain is nice, but... Yeah, and then the Heavy Slam from Bastrodon. Bastrodon takes a ton from the Weather Ball. The Chatots have not used their Terra, but they do just maybe they're kind of pinned here. Maybe the Bastrodon takes too much from Mimikyu if it terrestrializes. We don't know its Terra type, but yeah, Bastrodon is in trouble here. Oh, I did not. Oh, okay. Bastrodon is in trouble here anyway because it takes so much from that Weather Ball. And the Grassy Terrain will end before the rain does. Floral Healing is never keeping up. I don't think it does even with the terrain, but certainly not when the terrain is over. But now we know that Protect blocks your own Floral Healing. If you'd asked me before this replay, I would not have known the answer. I know the Protect does not block Life Dew, because I've taken advantage of that with that Mono Ghost team that I had in Reg H that was built around setting up Bulk Up Annihilate. But I guess it makes sense, right? Because Life Dew kind of targets the field and heals both Pokemon on one side of it, and Floral Healing targets a Pokemon. So it's more, you know, it has more of the vibe of a move that would be stopped by Protect, but I wouldn't have been 100% certain. Now we know for sure. Comfey drops to +2 Play Rough. And Bastrodon is on an island here. And that island has a lot less grass than it used to, but it's still rainy. And drops to a +2 Shadow Sneak. Mimikyu went crazy this game. Let's see if it can keep it up in game 2. Thwackey leading once again with Passimian, once again, against Furret and Mimikyu. So no change to the leads, but we'll see what other adjustments they have. Mimikyu protects again, but Furret doesn't this time. It goes for a knockoff into Passimian, removes the Life Orb, okay. But yeah, good protect on the Mimikyu. The Chatots still just trying to remove that quickly, and still not working out for them this game. We see the Follow Me on the Furret. It'll get knocked out here, but Mimikyu can have its Swords Dance if it wants. Still no Trick Room, by the way, but Mimikyu just going for the damage itself. Politoed comes in again. And what's going to be different this game? Passimian clicks... Okay, Mimikyu protects. Maybe covering for that Grassy Glide. Iron Head double up. It didn't Terrasilize this time. Maybe they want to preserve the Terra for some reason. But Passimian going for a Seed Bomb into Politoed, that is different. And along with the Woodhammer Thwackey, Politoed is knocked out. The Mimikyu is still putting out a lot of offensive pressure, but we'll see what the other Pokemon in the back is. If it's Torracat, then maybe they're staring down a boosted Passimian. So that play seems to have paid off pretty well for the Chatots around the Protect Mimikyu. We actually see its Clawitzer in the back. It's going to go for Terra Poison here. Passimian drops to a Play Rough. And is Thwackey going to attack the Clawitzer? Well, we don't get to find out because it just drops to a Terra Blast. How fast is this Clawitzer? Clawitzer is a slow Pokemon, isn't it? It has way lower base speed than Thwackey. Maybe it's Scarfed. Or Thwackey might just not... You know, it doesn't have to be. It could just have a bunch of speed investment while Thwackey doesn't. And I mean, I thought this looked like a Trick Room mode up preview. If they just ran these Pokemon fast when the opponent is expecting Trick Room, that could be pretty clever of them. Well, I guess we'll find out now whether the Clawitzer is locked in, or at least soon, because a Poison Terra Blast could wreck this Comfey, but it does nothing to Bastrodon. Bastrodon protects. Comfey finally breaks the disguise, but that's happening pretty late in the game here. Clawitzer does just Terra Blast Comfey. We'll probably find out now whether Clawitzer is choiced. Bastrodon goes for the Terra Fighting. Okay, that's why I didn't want to Terrasilize in front of the Mimikyu, because it's weak to the Play Rough then. So yeah, it was just pinned by the Mimikyu and Politoed. And they do just click Poison Terra Blast into the Bastrodon, so I think this is probably Scarf Clawitzer. Honestly, it could even be Specs with a bunch of speed investment, but I think it's choiced. You know, it depends on the Thwackey's EVs as well, so a lot of variables. Mimikyu will finally drop here, but Clawitzer has this one locked up. The really awkward thing is if it is choiced Clawitzer, then if Bastrodon hadn't Terrastalized, it would have won. But I mean, I don't know that I'm thinking of that if I'm playing this position. I'm not saying, oh, the Chatots played so badly or anything like that. It's a tough situation to deal with. It's easy for me to sit here in my chair days after the set was played and say, oh, I think that's Scarf Clawitzer. But it's a hard thing to read in-game. But yeah, I do think Bastrodon probably wins this if it doesn't Terrastalize. But then you still go to a tough game 3, and yeah, this mode with the Thwackey and the Passimian, I really like the aggression to try to remove the threats quickly, but the Minccinos were set up just right to power through it, and they did in both games. So solid, you know, I'm not going to pretend not to see something that I didn't see, but solid games from both sides here. The Minccinos, however, do take this one 2-0, and if you're watching this, you wrote in the Discord that you had lost 2-0. The order that the numbers are in matters relative to the names. Anyway, All right, we got the Hisuian Houndstones taking on the Sinistchas. Sinistchas have got to be running Trick Room. There's no way this one's a fake Trick Room team. They've got Slowking, Trevenant, Hariyama, and Copperajah. If this is a fake Trick Room team, I'm going to pause the recording and go for a walk before I continue this. On the Houndstone side, they might have their own Trick Room stuff as well, as we've got Slowbro versus Slowking here. Bronzong, Piloswine, a lot of strong Trick Room setters and slow, powerful attackers here. We also see the Flamigo. We see possible Chlorophyll Pokemon on both sides, in the Gloom and the Scoville. Yeah, so both sides kind of mirroring each other in some ways. I don't know what these teams are going to do, but I'll tell you what, if the Hisuian Houndstones have brought Belly Drum Slowbro with Co-Star Flamigo, I'm going to get excited. That's what I'm hoping to see here. And it's probably just really strong Trick Room stuff on the other side. Hariyama leading with Slowking against Flamigo and Bronzong. Flamigo goes for the Terra Dark, but gets crit by a Fake Out. Classic. But showing the Covert Cloak as it lands a Throat Chop into Slowking anyway. Will we see Imprison Bronzong here? Yes, we will. But Slowking doesn't go for Trick Room. It goes for Psychic into Flamigo. However, with the Dark Terra, Flamigo takes no damage from that. Brave Bird now knocks out the Hariyama. What a start by the Hisuian Houndstones here. The Bronzong going for Iron Defense is going to get scalded. No burn. It shows leftovers. But it is going to... The burn could be an issue, but it is certainly going to take hits from that Copperajah much better than it might have otherwise. Of course, the Flamigo is still here, threatening a Throat Chop into Slowking or a Close Combat into Copperajah. Just detect this turn, probably scouting for a Terra. Copperajah protects around the Body Press. Scald goes out into Flamigo. So no damage done this turn. And there's a Close Combat into Copperajah. No Terra. Both of those powerhouse physical Trick Room attackers just knocked out by this mighty Flamigo. Another Iron Defense in the Bronzong. It does take a Scald, and it does get burned this time, but I'm not sure that matters that much if you're the Houndstones. Now the Trevenant is here. Trevenant, I mean, it might still be able to cause some trouble, but if they just knock out the Slowking here, Trevenant is in a 1v4. I mean, if any Pokemon is going to win that, it might be a bulky Trevenant, but it's going to be hard. Flamigo just detecting, playing it safe. Bronzong still takes a fair bit from that Poltergeist, but it's not doing much back. Well, and it's not doing much back. It does survive at +4 defense. The Flamigo has a knockout here if it wants. Oh, okay, it goes for the Brave Bird into Trevenant. I think my instinct here is to take the KO on Slowking, and then you just have one Pokemon to deal with for the rest of the game. But there may be a reason that's not the best play. I don't know. Yeah, there might be something they were worried about with the Trevenant. It's possible I missed something that they saw. I think my instinct is to attack the Slowking, but I mean, big damage into Trevenant. Can't really complain. It does get some health back with the Citrus Berry, though, and the Horn Leech. I guess they just think they have the KO on Slowking, and they are right about that. Okay. So Flamigo is just doing more damage than Bronzong, especially because Trevenant is immune to Body Press. Bronzong probably doesn't have another... Well, we know it doesn't have another attack. Well, we can say with pretty high confidence that it has Trick Room. So that's what it is. You want to make the most of Flamigo before it goes down, so you attack the Trevenant, and then you have the KO into Slowking still with Bronzong. So actually, they made the right play there. And if maybe if I think that through a little bit more, I see it. Maybe I don't, and I just make a worse play than they did. But yeah, it is now a 1v3. We see the Piloswine come in, but again, Trevenant. Oh, it has Frisk, so it doesn't have Harvest. Its Berry is gone forever, but it's bulky. It gets Recovery with Horn Leech. It's super effective into this Piloswine. The Houndstones have already used their Terra. It's immune to the Bronzong's only attack. It's not necessarily over. We see Slowbro come in now. That's another Grass weakness, but we'll see what kind of damage the Piloswine does here with this Throat Chop. It's a lot of damage. Not a KO. But Trevenant will knock out Slowbro here, but it will drop to another Throat Chop. So, yeah, again, I think Trevenant is one of the Pokemon I most want to have on my side in a 1v3, but it's still easier said than done. And this Trevenant set isn't built to sit on the field forever. This one's a powerful Trick Room attacker. It still has nice recovery with that Horn Leech, but it does eventually drop to this Piloswine here. But we'll see what adjustments the Sinistcha find in Game 2, as they were unable to ever get Trick Room up in Game 1. And that also seemed important. The Flamigo was able to kind of run wild in the early game. We'll find out. Slowking leading with Hariyama once again, this time against Piloswine and Salazzle. No imprisoned Bronzong turn 1 this time. So there is an opportunity here. The Slowking goes straight for a Terra Ghost. Maybe I could learn something from that, considering what happened with my Slowking in Game 3 of my own set this week. Hariyama gets faked out. The Throat Chop doesn't do too much to Slowking, and we do see the Trick Room. I guess Terra Ghost is to cover for a fake out, not to cover for like a random choice banded Terra Blast, Terra Ground, or this one's not weak to ground, but you know. Still. You know, good careful play there, making sure they get the Trick Room up. There's going to be a Psychic into Salazzle. We see the Focus Sash as it does survive thanks to that. Bronzong takes a close combat pretty nicely. Hariyama gets burned, but it probably has Guts, right? Scald Slowking. Bronzong is starting to set up the Iron Defense. Salazzle knocked out. Is it Guts Hariyama? Goes for close combat into Flamigo, anticipating the Dark Terra maybe, because that would make sense to cover for Sidekick from Slowking. But now we see the Brave Bird. We know it KOs the Hariyama. And there's the Imprison, so Trick Room probably not going back up, at least not anytime soon. Flamigo takes a Scald. It does not get burned. But yeah, Robbie playing carefully around that Dark Terra, but we haven't actually seen it come out so far. But yeah, Flamigo took a Scald there instead of a Psychic, and it didn't get burned, so it's very happy with that turn. Throat Chop doesn't quite KO the Slowking, however, and a Scald back will knock out Flamigo. When we see the Scovillain on the other side, we will, I think, find out shortly what that does. Bronzong getting some health back with the leftovers could make a real difference. Piloswine now back on the field. Terra Ground tanks a Grass Knot, goes straight for an Earthquake. Bronzong avoids it with Levitate. Slowking is knocked out. Scovillain drops to a Body Press. We will not be finding out what Scovillain does in this game. Well, it does Grass Knot, I guess. And Moody. But the Trevenant is back, and this time Trevenant knocks out the Piloswine, and it's going to win this game because the only Pokemon left here is the Bronzong. We already know that it doesn't have any coverage for Trevenant. So it's just a matter of clicking Poltergeist. Yeah, until it drops. So, a lot of KOs back and forth in that game, but in the end, the Bronzong coming out later actually kind of burns the Houndstones, as it is left in that end game position that it can never win against Trevenant. Trevenant has narrowly failed to clutch up one game and very easily clutched up another. Will we get another Trevenant endgame? Will we find out what the Scovillain does? Will we see Belly Drum Slowbro with Co-Star Flamigo? Probably not that one, but let's find out now in Game 3. Scovillain and Trevenant against Flamigo and Piloswine. Okay. The Trevenant leading this time. Salazzle switches in. Interesting Pokemon selection. The Salazzle in the back. I guess you're maybe you're just reacting to being unable to beat the Trevenant in that last end game, trying to make sure that you have an answer to it. And then since the Trevenant came out late in the first two games, you bring the Salazzle in the back, and then they switch it in when Trevenant's in the lead position here. Makes a lot of sense, but then is it still Bronzong last? Probably, right? Trevenant protects around a Brave Bird. And Scovillain is just attacking here. I got thrown a bit by the Moody boost, but yeah, just overheat into Flamigo. I don't think I knew that Scovillain gets Moody. So maybe that's what Robbie meant about me being in for a surprise when I said that I don't know what Scovillain does. I knew it got Chlorophyll and Redirection, and whatever Spicy Extract does, it also has that. But yeah, the Moody is a bit of a surprise to me. Anyway, Terra Ghost on the Trevenant, so no longer weak to the Brave Bird. Still takes a lot of damage. but Flamigo is not very... Flamigo actually just drops the recoil, so it's really not very healthy. And with no Bronzong on the field, Trevenant gets the Trick Room up. I don't think it ever showed that it had Trick Room before now, unless I'm forgetting something from Game 2, but we could reasonably guess. There's the Slowbro, so no Bronzong this game. Probably no Imprisoned Trick Room. But the Slowbro is, I guess, just going to try to underspeed things in Trick Room and still win. Terra Dark covers nicely for the Poltergeist. It scalds the Scoville and doesn't KO. Takes a Horn Leech, not a ton of damage, but it is some recovery for Trevenant. But there is the Rocky Helmet on the Slowbro, so we could be getting to a position where it's like, if the Trevenant gets burned, burn damage, Horn Leech recovery, Rocky Helmet damage. I don't think Trevenant wins that with the burn. However, the Rage Powder Scovillain does keep it safe from the Will-O-Wisp this turn. Scovillain doesn't have to worry about getting burned. It doesn't probably love that special attack drop from the Moody, but if you're clicking Rage Powder, it doesn't really matter. But we do see the Slowking switch in here. Slowbro versus Slowking on the board. Trevenant does take a Scald Burn, which definitely weakens that Poltergeist into Salazzle. And Trevenant will go down here, so no matter what, we're not getting a Trevenant endgame. But now the Hariyama comes in next to the Slowking. 2 turns of Trick Room left. Salazzle switching out to Piloswine. A little bit bold, I would think. I mean, because there could easily be a Scald coming into that slot. Psychic Noise into Hariyama. It is a Scald. Okay, Piloswine takes it okay, but it's lucky not to be burned. And Close Combat from Hariyama just knocks out the Dark-type Slowbro. Slowbro, again, I think was covering for a Poltergeist with the Terra Dark, but yeah, that did leave it vulnerable to late-game Hariyama. So Robbie switching around the Pokemon order very effectively in Game 3. Now we see the Salazzle come in. It is the last turn of Trick Room. Scovillain's back. Slowking gets faked out. Piloswine can't very freely click Earthquake next to Salazzle, but it does now show the high horsepower to knock out Scovillain. Hariyama's back. Maybe it's not Guts Hariyama if it doesn't have a Flame Orb. It gets burned by Flamethrower. Yeah, okay, I guess it doesn't have Guts, because that Close Combat did not knock out that Piloswine. Yeah, I guess if it's Guts Hariyama, it's setting up its own burn. What moves is it shown? I don't have the other replays open anymore. I'm wondering if there's a case for Sheer Force on this set. But, hey, I don't remember the full Houndstones team. Maybe there's a case for Thick Fat. I don't know, but yeah, definitely not Guts. Piloswine survives. But Salazzle drops to a Scald, and it's hard to imagine Piloswine beats Slowking from here, right? It just doesn't have enough damage quickly enough. Earthquake will knock out Hariyama, but it didn't have a way to KO Slowking on the next attack, and that was just, that just loses the game because it drops to a Scald at 6%. But that was a really close set, and the Houndstones, new team to this league, I think, really showed some interesting stuff there. And yeah, it'll be cool to see what they do over the rest of the season, because Robbie has been a PDL veteran for a long time, run a lot of strong teams, had a lot of really good seasons, and he did to get the win here, but not without some difficulty. It's going to be a fun season all across the board for sure. But there is one more set to get through for Week 1, and that is Winchester Walreins versus Foraging Furrets. And of course, I'm going to try to remember every time to mention that the Winchester Walreins coach, Reckless Trico, has a YouTube channel and uploads, you know, firsthand a live commentary of the sets, like I do for my own sets on Mondays. You can check that out at the channel Reckless Trico, which will be linked in the description. Please do go check it out. However, the Walreins are showing their snow team here in Week 1. We see the Abomasnow here to set up snow for the Frostlass. Frostlass gets Snow Cloak, and it's a fast Pokemon with that I'm pretty sure learns Aurora Veil and Blizzard. It doesn't hit super hard with the Blizzard, but it has that option. So it has a bunch of ways to take advantage of the snow, one of which is just being made harder to hit. There's the Blazebreed Tauros, which on the one hand does want to intimidate this Girder, on the other hand probably does not want to intimidate this Bisharp, but also spreading Burns could be pretty strong into this Furrets team, at least the 6 Pokemon in front of me, so yeah, Tauros having multiple ways to nerf physical damage and then also threaten the Skarmory and stuff makes a lot of sense. There's Redirection with the Sentret, there's Vaporeon in that bulky Water Roll, and there's a Rotom in that, I don't know, fast-ish electric type role. Again, I don't know the team super well in the first week of the season. I don't necessarily see the vision here, but I definitely see that snow mode. It could also be Blizzard Vaporeon, like I called out in the draft recap. On the Furret side, I mean, Last season, this was a team with a really strong identity that had a very powerful mode that it brought week after week, but was hard to deal with. I don't know whether we're going to see the same thing this season. I don't see what that would be right now, but I do see a strong... I see a strong, but kind of... I don't know, unusual mix of Pokemon. I absolutely trust that there's a vision, but I think we're just going to have to jump in to see what that is. So, Vaporeon leading with Sentret against Skarmory and Weezing. Why do you want redirection next to Vaporeon? It could be a Calm Mind set. I think that would make a lot of sense, but we'll find out. It is Calm Mind. Okay, well, yeah, that answers that. Skarmory going for Stealth Rock right away, so the possible Ice types in the back. And the Tauros, not going to enjoy that. Stealth Rock actually could make a lot of sense in this matchup, yeah, but... you do have to not make sure that you don't let the Vaporeon set up and run away with it. If it's like Whirlwind or Roar Skarmory, I don't know whether it still gets both of those moves, but I suspect it probably gets at least one of them. That could be a really interesting tech here in front of this Calm Mind Vaporeon, but we'll see. The Sentret, by the way, did not click Follow Me. It just clicked Knockoff. It is Skarmory, so getting taunted is no problem. Goodbye Skarmory's leftovers. Vaporeon goes for second Calm Mind, and I think the Skarmory can probably not force it off the field because we just see a Brave Bird. Vaporeon gets taunted, but I think Vaporeon is okay to start attacking now. Weezing gets knocked off. We see a Covert Cloak. Bisharp coming in. And with the Weezing switching out, we see the Frisk from the Sentret, so it is Black Glasses Bisharp. However, the Alomomola comes in after the Frisk goes off. That's an interesting interaction to know. Weezing switches out, Frisk goes off, we see the teammate's item, but then the Alomomola comes in after the Frisk, so we don't see its item. Vaporeon goes straight from Muddy Water. So if it's Defiant Bisharp, then actually Muddy Water could be a little bit risky because we see that the Bisharp survives there. If it takes an accuracy drop, I believe it does get a Defiant boost from that, assuming it has Defiant. But we don't see that interaction here. Black Glasses are knocked off, but Bisharp is still here. Sentret not hitting super hard, but hey, it is spreading a little bit of damage with the knockoff. And now the taunt wears off. Sentret is able to click Follow Me, redirect Throat Chop away from Vaporeon. Muddy Water misses Bisharp and does not very much to Alomomola. Sentret gets knocked out by an Icy Wind. And who's coming in now? We do see the Tauros. No Intimidate. Okay, so watching out for the Defiant Bisharp there, taking that threat seriously. We do see an immediate Terra Electric on the Tauros, and it goes straight for a Wild Charge into Alomomola. Still going to do big damage to the Skarmory, so you like that, I think, if you're the Walreins. Vaporeon takes a fair bit from a Throat Chop, but Muddy Water comes out and gets 2 KOs. And we know that it's Weezing and Alomomola in the back. I do have some trouble seeing how they're going to stand up to these two Pokemon. Alomomola with Regenerator is nice and healthy again. And the Furrets forfeit. Okay. I don't know how that's going to be counted for stats, but yeah, that's the end of Game 1. As the Weezing and Alomomola are not able to stand up to this boosted Vaporeon and this Electric-type Tauros. So, this has been going on for a while. We're just going to jump into Game 2 and find out what adjustment the Furrets make. Abomasnow leading now with Rotom. So, 2 Pokemon we didn't see before from the Walreins against Dedenne and Bisharp. We didn't see Dedenne in Game 1 either. Abomasnow goes straight for a Terra Water in front of Dedenne. So that helps it take an Iron Head, potentially, but there's obviously some risk in that, but kind of like the Terra Dark Reuniclus earlier, it's closed team sheet, your opponent doesn't know what you're going to do, getting the jump on them with something like this can be a big advantage. Dedenne going for Tail Whip, so Bisharp is going to hit harder, but not so much after it gets burned. And yeah, the Abomasnow resists the Iron Head now, but Tail Whip Dedenne is a really fun tech. People have in the past run like Leer Tornadus in VGC grassroots events and stuff. So spread defense drops are not unheard of. You see that some of that stuff in Draft League as well. But yeah, I would not have seen the Tail Whip coming if I were their opponent. That's a really fun tech for sure. All that said, the Abomasnow knocks out Dedenne with an Earth Power. Bisharp is burned, so rough start for the Furrets, I think. Weezing comes in, we get the neutralizing gas, but the snow is already up. And also Weezing is vulnerable to an Earth Power. Terra Dark on the Bisharp takes a lot from that Rotom Thunderbolt. And we see the Colbur Berry on Rotom. Terra Dark Bisharp, even with the burn, would have knocked it out. Oh, -1 defense as well. But the Colbur Berry clutches up and protects Rotom. Of course, we could see a Sucker Punch after this, but Abomasnow, after the Terra Water, takes a Sludge Bomb nicely. It does get poisoned, but it does some good damage to Weezing with the Earth Power. And it's hard to imagine that the Furrets have enough offense to survive this one. Weezing switches out here to a Alomomola. We do see a Sucker Punch. It's actually into the Abomasnow, so that drops, but then Rotom gets Thunderbolt off into Bisharp. Weezing and Alomomola now. Rotom's still here. Not really bothered about the defense drop now, but it is still a low HP, but a Thunderbolt is a real threat to either of these, and the Furrets have used their Terra, and now the Vaporeon comes in. Weezing protects. Rotom goes for an Electro Web, nice. Makes sense. Get some damage on both. And Vaporeon starts setting up that Calm Mind. Rotom will drop to a Scald, but it's done plenty of work here already. As we see the Tauros come in. Wild Charge does half of Alomomola's remaining HP. And there's the Blizzard Vaporeon. I figured we were going to see it sooner or later. I wasn't sure it would be this week, but Calm Mind Vaporeon. We saw the Muddy Water in Game 1, and here now it clicks Blizzard in the snow. Knocks out the Weezing. Tauros not taking that much from the Scald. Alomomola just not super strong. It'll drop to a Wild Charge. Yeah, I knew the Blizzard Vaporeon was going to be fun when we saw it. The Foraging Furrets definitely brought some interesting stuff to this matchup. I really like the Tail Whip Dedenne, and I actually think the Stealth Rock makes a lot of sense against this specific opponent. But they just didn't have an answer for the Calm Mind, for the duo of Vaporeon and Tauros in the end. Calm Mind Vaporeon putting in a ton of work in Hail, and Blaze Breed Tauros nicely covering for its weaknesses. And I have a feeling that we're going to see that duo put in a lot of work for the Winchester Walreins over the rest of the season, although I know that they'll bring some other creative techs week after week as well. I don't think I play the Furrets this season, but I definitely do play the Walreins, so yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out on what they bring up until that week. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Furrets game plan looks like in future weeks as well. But that is week 1 of the PDL season. A lot of creative techs, a lot of awesome plays. Obviously, half the league isn't starting the season the way they wanted, but this early on, anything can happen, and we're definitely going to have some interesting matchups ahead. And I can tell you now, there are already a few trades in for week 2, so stick around. It's going to be quite a show over the next 7 weeks, and then playoffs.